You are listening to the Stand Out Now podcast with your host, Dave Mendonca. Check out each episode as top experts share their proven marketing, publicity, and sales tips to help you cut through the advertising noise so you can reach your ideal clients, get noticed, and connect with powerful influencers. The Stand Out Now podcast is brought to you by podcastinterviewexperts.com, helping entrepreneurs attract clients through business podcast guest appearances.
Greetings. Thank you for listening. Our guest is a body language expert and author of Truth and Lies, What People Are Really Thinking. Mark Bowden, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Mark. Here's a question I always begin every interview with. When you were a kid, what marketing or sales strategies, knowingly or unknowingly, did you use to get what you wanted?
Well, it has to be pester power, I would imagine. Does that translate in North America? Pester power.
What is that?
Well, that's when you nag. When you nag your parents. It's like, oh, come on. Oh, please. Come on. You know, you tug at them and just annoy them until they buy you something.
Any examples?
Well, I think when I first got an electric guitar, I just annoyed my dad to the point where he, oh, okay, I'll get you one. Just an annoyance. And marketeers, they use it a lot to sell toys, I don't know, breakfast cereal and that kind of thing. They make stuff as fantastical as possible so kids will pester their parents and nag them to get stuff. I guess it's like spamming. You know, it's just like when you get spammed and spammed and spammed and spammed until you go, oh, all right, I'll buy whatever it is that you're telling me about in this email. If you'll just take me off the list.
Right. Were you an only child? Did you have other siblings?
I got two sisters and a brother. So it was a fairly big family, not a huge amount of money. So the pestering on the whole, didn't work very much because if you don't have the money, all the pestering in the world isn't going to get you the thing.
Right. Because I was going to ask, are you the youngest? Because maybe you were leveraging the pestering that way because you were young and, give it to the youngest.
So I had an older sister who's 2 years older than me, and then a younger sister who's actually 10 years younger than me, and a younger brother who's 13 years younger than me. Okay. So it was kind of like almost two families, two sets of kids.
Got it. So you call it pestering, I call it perseverance.
Oh.
That's what I'm reading from this, Mark.
I like the framing of that.
Exactly. Okay, so the pestering, how did you use that in regards to your career, like in terms of the perseverance?
Oh, well, definitely, look, perseverance, yeah, absolutely. Just not giving up, just keeping going, just having a goal in mind and keeping going towards that goal. I was having a conversation a few years back with a guy who I was working with, and he had what we call in Canada an Order of Canada. So it's an award. It's a social award. It's kind of like a knighthood or something like that in the UK, or I guess a Medal of Honor maybe in the US. Anyway, I quite fancied one of those, so I said to him, "How do I get an Order of Canada?" And he said, "Mark," he said, "just keep going, just keep going." So I think perseverance is really key. Just keep on going at stuff, and something will break. I think often people go, "Oh, I haven't had my break yet." And you kind of wonder whether they have been pushing on either side of the stick for long enough for the stick to break. You've got to just keep persevering and something will happen eventually.
Right. So what about you? Like you're going along your path, like I guess when you were younger, I don't know what jobs you were thinking about, dream careers. Like how did you develop this idea of just keeping at something?
Well, I think just necessity. Partly. Mm-hmm. I'm dyslexic, so I was never good at reading or writing or mathematics. Well, I've got quite a good mathematical brain. It's just the numbers don't come out right. I'm pretty good with language. It's just I can't write it down, although I have written 4 books. But thank goodness for spell check. Even that doesn't work that well. I have to have so many editors to make what I've written actually what I thought I was writing. So, yeah, there was only really perseverance, which was to keep going, because often stuff didn't really work out that well in the same way that it did for others. The world didn't quite work for me in the same way as it did for others. So I think I just got a fairly early on a sense of resilience, and when things didn't go right for me, just carrying on regardless.
So growing up, Mark Bowden, what did he want? Like, what was the career? What was the apex job? Or
astronaut, really.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
As a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. But the mathematical piece wasn't quite working for me there. That and Britain really not having a rocket program. So that was never really going to happen. I loved animation. I loved stories with pictures, and I loved biology. Well, so first of all, I really wanted to be Jacques Cousteau. Do you know Jacques Cousteau?
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Deep sea diver, marine biologist, explorer. I loved being under the sea and the movement of the water and the life there. So I quite fancied being Jacques Cousteau. And I loved animation as well, and I wanted to be in animation as well. And I think both of those things got me into behavior and telling stories with pictures, and how pictures, especially moving pictures, influence and persuade people. And that's really how I came across this area of nonverbal communication and body language, through exploring how moving images, especially of people, really affect the other people around them.
So this discovery of body language, the interest, was it something gradual? Was it something that just hit you over the head one day, or how did that happen?
Well, no, it was pretty gradual. I liked looking at pictures of people and seeing people move and movement. And so, no, it just kind of evolved, really. There was no day where I went, right, that's it. I know, I'll be a body language expert. Well, because there weren't any around. There was nobody to model yourself on. There aren't many of us. Look, here's one thing. It's like, don't do anything where you don't stand a good chance of success. So pick a really small niche, like body language expert, because there aren't many of us, and if you stay in there for long enough, you're bound to be number one at some point, because there's only a handful of us.
Love it.
So I niched fairly early on in how pictures tell stories. And so, and I read more than anybody else and watched more video than anybody else and came up with models that other people hadn't come up with. So I guess you trace back far enough, things like luck essentially become inevitability. It's kind of inevitable that I end up where I am because nobody else was looking at the stuff I was looking at.
Right. So take me to that conversation with your parents. Mom, Dad, listen, I want to do this body language thing. How did they take it?
Originally, I was going to be a visual artist. I wanted to be an artist. And actually, I still kind of consider myself in that area, because really what I'm doing is kind of painting moving pictures with people that have an effect. Right. I'm showing people how to move that will have a really clear effect on other people. So I would still count myself in the area of visual art. It's just difficult to explain that to most people. They're never going to buy you doing that. But body language expert, they kind of go, oh, yeah, no, I get that. Good, that might be useful. So I went off to study visual theatre and work in visual theatre, which was telling stories with pictures. And my parents were okay with that. And they were happy that I got something that I could do, given that school had not been potentially a massive success for me.
Right. Well, you took the risk and it's working out. So this is good.
Sure.
This is good. So talk about body language. You're talking about the power of persuasion and whatnot, making the connection between persuasion and body language. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this podcast, like entrepreneurs, they take a listen. So maybe if you could relay maybe a couple of tips in terms of, say maybe a business meeting. They're trying to secure that client. What's something subtle they could do that could tip the scale? Yeah.
So let's imagine that this business meeting is happening at a table. What tends to happen when you're at tables is, what tends to happen in general is your environment will start to rule your behavior. Your behavior and the outcomes from your behavior will be more triggered by the environment than probably anything else. So the moment we sit down at the table, what we tend to do is kind of pull ourselves up to the table and get all our stuff out and what we call our tools and our resources, and we get them around us. And we've really blocked ourselves off from the person we're trying to make contact with and sell to. So what I advise people to do is actually sit back from the table about a hand span. And that's not lean back from the table. That's push the chair back so there's about a hand span between your tummy area and the table. That actually means that your audience, the other people at the meeting, can see more of you. When they can see more of you, they default to more positives about you. When they can see less of you, they default to more negatives. It's one of the heuristics, the kind of algorithms that our mind, our brain uses, is when insufficient data, we default to negatives. When more sufficient data, we have a more positive outview. So you can skew the perception that somebody has, not only of you, but of your product and service, by simply showing more of yourself. Now, of course, tables block off vision. So we're trying to sit down at the table because that's social, but not be hidden by the table. Does that make sense to you, Dave?
Yeah, it does. So I guess the thought is if more of you's hidden behind the table, it's like subconsciously you're thinking, hey, this guy's hiding something from me. Is that the thought?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when this is tested, when I train people in this or do this in workshops and test it and say, hey, what's going on in your head? They're going, yeah, we're just thinking, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? And you'll show them, you go, look, I'm hiding nothing. You can see that I'm hiding nothing. And then I'll hide my hands again and pull myself into the table. And I go, yeah, no, we've got this kind of chat in our heads around, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? And that's the instinct talking to you. Our instinct makes judgments about the world based on visually what we see. And those judgments are then wanting to be proved by the neocortex, the smart part of the brain, by a kind of reverse engineering. So, if you've got a product and a service that you're trying to sell to a group, but you're hiding your body, that group will think you're hiding something about the product or the service. They'll think you're not being quite honest about it. Well, that's usually never good.
Got it. Okay, here's another scenario. I like playing this game with you, Mark.
Lovely.
Okay, next scenario, networking event. You're meeting absolute strangers. You are a business owner. You want to make connections. What happens when you enter through that front door?
Yeah, here's what's going to happen. When you enter through that front door, because your brain doesn't know what is inside the room, you've never probably networked there before, you don't know exactly who's going to be there, it's going to cause you to be cautious, or what some people call shy, or maybe a little bit arrogant. It might put you into fight instead of flight. But let's just say it's going to trigger you to be cautious, which means as you walk into the room, you're most likely to hang around the periphery of the room, doorways just inside of the door, around the walls for protection, and you won't actually move quickly into the kind of hot spot of the room where people who are more comfortable will now be. People who've been there a while, they'll have gravitated as they got more comfortable to more powerful positions in the room where you can see more, where you're more seen, essentially. Well, here's what you need to do is as you come into the room, find the point in the room where you think you can be most seen. It's actually the most vulnerable part of the room, and go straight there and start talking to whoever is there. Because everybody will see that and think, oh, there's somebody who's really confident. And therefore, if they're confident, well, they must have something good. They must have a good product or service. They must have something good that they're here to network. So move into more powerful positions in the room, and those powerful positions tend to be ones where you'd be most vulnerable, strangely enough.
Right. So say there's like someone you want to talk to in that networking event, and they're in discussion with somebody else. They're in a conversation. Do you wait till the conversation's done? Like, what's the etiquette?
Oh, yeah, good idea. Yeah, so here's what you certainly don't do. Don't come in at their peripheral vision. So don't kind of come around the back of them and then appear just in their kind of blind spot around the back of them. That will get them to default to negatives about you. So you need to get yourself into a position where they can clearly see that you're in front of them and at a distance. Yeah, and then approach them. It'd be a good idea to smile. And do very open body language. And one thing that I use is to just tell them, you know what, I just want to interrupt you. So then they know you're interrupting them. So you don't have to kind of hang around in the conversation or wait for them to invite you. You just come in where they can clearly see you. Come in directly, not too fast, but you've got a direct movement, and say, just want to interrupt you here. and then find something to talk about. So maybe just want to interrupt you here because I'd like to understand what why you've come here and what the benefits are here. So find something else to talk about. Listen, if they really want to keep on talking about what they're talking about, they'll just keep on talking about that.
Right.
But they might be quite welcome for a bit of an interruption and talking about something else. But again, what it's about is being really direct and clear and telling them exactly what's happening. It's about showing them exactly what's happening. You're being really direct and really clear and instructing them at the same time verbally that you're being direct and clear. Because again, that must mean you're confident, and you must be confident because you've got something great.
Sure, definitely. Now, apology or no apology when you're doing the interruption. I'm Canadian, so inherently I feel like, Mark, I'm sorry for interrupting. Mark, you know what I mean? Like, do you do that?
Yeah, the English don't apologize for interruptions so much. We're used to kind of just, we have a history of just invading countries and never apologizing at all. So, why we'd apologize breaking up a conversation, I have no idea.
Okay.
So, yes, culturally, sometimes you might want to add in what is culturally acceptable, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Because the key is you're being clear and direct, and other people's minds and brains love clarity. The brain loves clarity. It loves clear movement, clear speech, because then it can make what it believes is good decisions. If things are unclear, our minds get worried about the decisions that we're making.
Right.
So you don't need to apologize. You just need to be clear.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you could actually not apologize. You could say, look, I'm not going to apologize for this. It's very rude. I'm just going to interrupt you.
Okay.
Because then they go, oh, yeah, right, okay, good. You're being rude and you're not apologizing. But they get it. It's when somebody kind of sidles up from the side and we're wondering, who are you? What are you doing here? Yeah, exactly.
Got it. All right. Final scenario. So you, the business owner, are with your prospect one-on-one. The prospect is on the fence, okay? And you are trying to persuade that prospect to purchase. So what do you do? Like, the prospect is trying to figure out if it's right for her.
Yeah. So first of all, just open body language. Open body language so you look like you are receptive to and non-judgmental. You always want to look like you're receptive, you're open, and you're non-judgmental. And so what I mean by open body language is, imagine it's a cold day, which actually today in Canada it is very cold. There's that vortex going on. And so it's a cold day and you're in front of a fire, and think how you'd warm yourself up. You'd have open hands. You'd be opening up at your navel area. You'd be opening up at your chest area to let that warmth in. So you want to do very open body language because you're going to ask them to tell you is exactly where they are at the moment and why. And you want to do that in a very open, non-judgmental way, because then they might give you the truth about where they are in the purchase. So I do very open body language and say, look, I'm just curious, where are you at the moment in terms of whether you're going to buy this or not buy this, and for what reasons?
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, because then they might give you a really valuable piece of information that you can work with.
Right. And it's so important to listen, obviously, and pay attention to their body language too. Okay, got it.
For sure.
Got it. Great. I love playing that game with you. Thank you for those tips. Amazing. All right. So tell me more about just what you do, like Truth Plane, your books. What's going on there?
Yeah. Okay. So Truth Plane, communication training. We are a communication training company, and we help people all over the world stand out, win trust, and gain credibility every time they speak. I'm helping people all over the world be better at communicating, really through that lens of nonverbal communication. And I do that by giving keynotes and training sessions to groups or one-on-one maybe sometimes. And I've got 4 books out there, lots of video content out there, and you'll find us at truthplane.com.
Beautiful. So when you launched Truth Plane and your body language expertise, your empire, how did you promote it? Like, I'm sure like off the top, it was quite challenging trying to get some notoriety. How did you do it?
Originally, what I was doing was marketing as a presentation training company. And just on the whole, there were so many people out in the market. And then I really thought, well, if I just niche the whole thing into body language and say, look, there's this expertise in body language, and that is the key to trust and credibility. And every time you're asking another presentation training company to help your people have executive presence, really what you're asking for is for them to be trusted and credible. And we decide if somebody's trustworthy and credible by their behavior. So you don't want a presentation training company to help you. You need a behavior and body language expert to help you. So once I'd landed on that, really I'd got a great niche and a great unique selling proposition, I think. And certainly that was the case. People were excited by it because it seemed very clear. And also they were excited by the trust and credibility piece because they were unable usually to put their finger on why people's presentations weren't working, why they weren't working as leaders. They'd say, well, we've got this person's very clever and bright and they're good at the math and they do, but they present and, it doesn't work out very well. And I go, yeah, because they're not trusted and they don't come across as credible, do they? And they go, yes, that's it. Right. That's it. We don't trust them. There's no credibility. Go, okay, well, do you want me to fix that? I go, yeah, fix that. Great. Okay, fine. So really that's been the history of that is really landing on trust and credibility and landing on the body language being the key to that.
Sure. Were there specific marketing strategies? Like, did you go, knock on corporations' doors, like email blasts, like anything specific?
Yeah, well, really the biggest marketing piece has been doing keynote speeches because nothing says credibility more than somebody who's willing to stand up in front of several thousand people and put their message across. So the moment you do that, people go, wow, this guy must know what he's talking about. Otherwise, why would they have hired him to do that? And why would he risk doing that if he doesn't know what he's talking about? So there's huge credibility when you stand up in front of a group. And also, I just started making video about this stuff really early on. I was certainly one of the first people that I knew marketing with video on YouTube, even before Google had bought it. So I got a lot of videos up on there on body language before Google bought YouTube, and then they did. And so in the rankings, in search terms, suddenly I was right up at the top because I got lots of video on YouTube. So making content that's helpful to people has really been, I think, my best marketing strategy.
Yeah, you just film it once and it's viewed like hundreds of thousands of times.
For sure. Yeah. And you can keep on throwing it out there and, the library gets bigger. And I think all you're ever trying to do is make stuff helpful. If you can help people, they're never upset with you.
Right, exactly. You talked about speaking. So what was your pathway to being a speaker? Because I know some of the listeners of this show are interested in being speakers. How did you do it?
I just got asked and I said yes. I think that's one of the
nice.
one of the keys. In fact, part of getting on with this whole thing has been saying yes to lots of stuff you can't do, and then working out how to do it once you said yes. So speaking was one of those things. Somebody said, "Will you come and speak to my organization about this?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And I hadn't really done that before, and I turned up and I kind of learned as I went along and went, oh, wow, okay, yeah, that mic me up. Okay, wow, lots of people. Wow. All right, okay.
Biggest audience you've ever spoken to? I just
jumped in and learned to swim.
No worries. A biggest audience you've ever spoken to?
7,000, I think.
Who was it for? A corporation?
That was Dell.
Wow.
Yeah. That was Dell in Vegas. There's some huge events in Vegas.
Vegas. Mark Bowden in Vegas. That's awesome.
Yeah. You kind of start thinking you might be Elvis. Yeah, it was 7,000 people, and I needed to be in Montreal the next day.
Wow.
And I said, look, I can only do this if you can get me to Montreal for the next morning early. And I said, there's no planes going out at the right time. They said, okay, so we'll give you Dell's jet. So I'm like, okay, that'll work.
Oh, wow. So what's it like being on stage? I'm not a professional speaker. I'm not on stage and whatnot, but I assume it's kind of like being a rock star a little bit.
Yeah, it can be. I'm not quite sure what being a rock star. I mean, I'm not quite sure. I'm sure there are other things that go on around that I don't quite get access to. But look, I mean, I think certainly there's a big responsibility. A whole bunch of people have shown up and they want something to happen. They want something really interesting to happen. And so there's a lot of responsibility to go on and deliver something that's going to make people go, wow, that was worth showing up for. I mean, essentially, when I get hired as a keynote speaker, I think that's what people are really buying. They're buying, or, the event organizers are buying a moment that will make the whole time that audience is there worthwhile. Because there's me, and I'll go on and hopefully I'm going to be really entertaining and really helpful. But then there's the other things that they have to watch and listen to, which is like how to deal with the new order entry system. Some speech from the CEO, which is dreary. And so, they're hoping my piece will cause people to go, wow, that was great. That's really motivated me and got me thinking. I want to tell my friends and my family about this as soon as I get home. And I've sat through 3 hours of how to deal with the new order entry system.
Right. Well, it sounds like you deliver compelling work on stage. I've seen, obviously, your videos. You do great work there. I'm also hearing great reviews about your book, Truth and Lies, What People Are Really Thinking. Love the title. Mark, what are people really thinking?
Well, that's tricky to work out, so we had to write a book on it. So the publishers came along to us, HarperCollins, and said, hey, will you write a book on reading body language? And I instantly said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Really?
Because there's so many books out there. Some of them are really bad and some of them are really good. But I don't know what I'm really going to add to any of this. And then I kind of put the phone down and thought, I really shouldn't have said that. I should have said yes. So anyway, I rang them back and I said, actually, yes, I will write the book. But what it's going to be is a book on critical thinking disguised as a book on reading body language. So it has all the stuff about reading body language in there, all the stuff you want to know about what stuff means in certain contexts and what people might be thinking by the gestures they're making or the faces or the orientations of their body. That's all in there. But really, the meat of it is how you can think more accurately and clearly about other people and get closer to the truth of what's happening to them and closer to the truth of what's happening to you and the relationship. Because often when we judge other people, when we're looking at their body language, our predictions about them, it's more an indicator of how we're feeling than they're feeling. So it's a way of better getting to know yourself and better getting to know lots more people.
Got it. What kind of feedback have you been hearing about the book?
Oh, people love the book. Yeah. People love the book. They love it because you can kind of dip into it. The chapters are very, very short. So you can literally flick through the pages and not read it in order. The first part of the book is about dating. So people obviously love that stuff. They want to know, the body language of dating. The second part of it is about family and friends. So we get very wound up with what's my family member thinking? What are my friends thinking? Why did that happen? Why did they do that? Why am I feeling like this? And then the third part of it is about business, but also it's got a lot across the whole of it around social media and kind of digital body language, this new world that we're in whereby we're judging each other based on images that are coming up on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn.
Got it. So where can people get the book?
All good book monopolies. So I know one called Amazon. It pretty much runs the whole book thing. So head over there. Do them a favor. Buy a book from them.
Awesome. Mark, for a guy that pestered his dad a lot when he was young, you've done pretty good for yourself.
Yeah, it seemed to work out.
Awesome, Mark.
I'll just keep on pestering the universe. It may deliver.
You're doing a great job, Mark. Great job.
Thanks very much, Dave.
All right, so thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Everybody, check out Mark, truthplane.com, get his book, support this guy. Mark, thanks again.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dave.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening and enjoy your week.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Out Now podcast. Don't forget to rate and review our show on iTunes. Also, you can find out more about our program at thestandoutnowpodcast.com. Thanks again, and have a great week.